Welcome to the Uncommon Folk, where the lesser known heroes, villains, and fascinating figures from history come to life. Together, once a month, we'll uncover the untold stories and hidden legends that have shaped our world, revealing drama, intrigue, and more behind some truly extraordinary lives. Join me as we explore and celebrate the uncommon folk who deserve their place in the spotlight. I'm your host and resident amateur historian Regan, and our subject for this episode is Kaloyan of Bulgaria, the Romanslayer. To preface Kaloyan's story, let's picture the crumbling Byzantine Empire at the end of the 12th century. Once the dominant power of the Eastern Mediterranean, the empire was no shadow of its former glory, plagued by internal dissent, power struggles, and external threats. Internally, the empire struggled with corruption and a lack of strong central authority. The ruling Komnenos dynasty had brought a period of relative stability and success during the 12th century. However, this was replaced by the Angelos dynasty in 1185. The Angelos emperors, particularly Isaac II and his brother Alexios III, were notoriously weak and ineffective rulers. Their reigns were marked by financial mismanagement, increases in taxation, and growing discontent among the empire's diverse population. Externally, the Byzantine Empire faced constant threats from multiple fronts. In the west, Norman forces from Sicily launched aggressive campaigns, sacking cities like Thessalonica in 1185. In the east, the Seljuk Turks continued to erode Byzantine control in Anatolia. Meanwhile, the rise of new states like Serbia, Hungary, and the Bulgarian Empire further destabilized Byzantine dominance in the Balkans. The empire's inability to effectively respond to these threats demonstrated its waning power and provided opportunities for ambitious leaders to challenge its authority. It was a time of chaos and opportunity, a time where smaller states and ambitious leaders could rise from the ashes of old powers. Among these ambitious leaders was Kaloyan of Bulgaria, a ruler whose name has been largely forgotten despite his pivotal role in shaping southeastern Europe. Today, we'll take you into the life of Kaloyan, a warrior king who crowned himself with papal blessings, fought against crusaders, and captured one of the most powerful men in Europe. His reign was marked by cunning diplomacy, military brilliance, and a relentless drive to place Bulgaria back on the map as a dominant force. Join us as we uncover the story of this extraordinary yet underappreciated historical figure. To understand Kaloyan's life and achievements, we first need to look at the state of the Bulgarian Empire before his time. In the 11th century, Bulgaria fell to the Byzantine Empire after a long and bitter struggle. This 150-year period saw the extinguishing of one of Byzantium's fiercest rivals and the subsequent suppression of Bulgarian independence, culture, and identity, though not without periods of resistance and unrest. Basil II, known to history as the Bulgarslayer, launched a series of brutal military campaigns against Bulgaria between the years of 986 and 1018. His initial efforts met resistance, with the Bulgarian army achieving notable victories, such as at the Battle of the Gates of Trajan in 986, where Basil narrowly escaped with his life. However, the tide turned in Byzantium's favour due to Basil's persistence, superior resources, and strategic use of alliances with regional powers. The pivotal moment came at the Battle of Kleidion in 1014, where Basil II decisively defeated the Bulgarian forces. According to historical accounts, Basil ordered 15,000 captured Bulgarian soldiers to be blinded, sparing only one in every 100 to lead the rest home. This act of calculated cruelty demoralized the Bulgarian population and earned him his infamous epithet. Following the death of Tsar Ivan Vladislav in 1018, the Bulgarian resistance crumbled, and the First Bulgarian Empire was formally annexed into the Byzantine Empire. After the annexation, the Byzantine Empire reorganized Bulgarian territories into several administrative units called themes. The most notable was the theme of Bulgaria, with its capital in Skopje and later Ohrid, both of which are in modern-day Macedonia. This system was designed to integrate the region into the Byzantine administrative framework and suppress any notion of Bulgarian autonomy. Byzantium also sought to undermine the Bulgarian aristocracy, which had been a source of rebellion and resistance. Many Bulgarian nobles were either killed during the campaigns or relocated to other parts of the empire, weakening local leadership. Byzantine officials, often Greek or of non-Bulgarian origin, were appointed to govern Bulgarian lands, further alienating the local population. One of the most effective tools of Byzantine control was the suppression of the independent Bulgarian Orthodox Church. The prestigious Bulgarian Patriarchate, which had been a symbol of national pride and autonomy, was downgraded to an archbishopric under the jurisdiction of the Patriarch of Constantinople. The seat of the Bulgarian Church was moved to Ohrid, and its leadership was largely filled with Byzantine-appointed clerics. While the church continued to serve as a spiritual and cultural centre for the Bulgarian people, its diminished status symbolised the loss of national sovereignty. Although Bulgaria was politically subjugated, its cultural and religious identity endured during this period. The Bulgarian language continued to be spoken by the majority of the population, and local monasteries became centres of cultural preservation. The monastic community of Mount Athos, in particular, played a significant role in maintaining Bulgarian religious traditions and literacy. Folk traditions and oral histories also kept alive the memory of the First Bulgarian Empire. Tales of heroes like Tsar Samuel and the glory of Bulgaria's past served as a source of inspiration for future generations. The resilience of Bulgarian culture during this period laid the groundwork for the eventual re-establishment of the Bulgarian state. The Byzantine authorities imposed heavy taxes on the Bulgarian population, further deepening resentment. Agricultural production, the backbone of the Bulgarian economy, was heavily taxed, and Byzantine officials often exploited the system for personal gain. This economic burden, coupled with the social displacement caused by war, created widespread hardship for Bulgarians. This is why the fire of resistance never truly went out. By the late 12th century, cracks in the Byzantine Empire's control had begun to show. In 1185, two brothers, Asen and Peter, led a successful uprising against the Byzantine overlords, establishing the Second Bulgarian Empire. They capitalized on the discontent among the Vlach and Bulgarian populations, rallying them with promises of freedom and a return to greatness. The rebellion was not a spontaneous uprising, but a carefully calculated movement. The Asen brothers leveraged widespread dissatisfaction over increased taxation imposed by Byzantine Emperor Isaac II. This taxation was particularly resented in the Balkans, where it strained the local economies and undermined traditional privileges. The timing of the rebellion was also strategic. The Byzantine Empire was facing challenges on multiple fronts, including Norman invasions in the west and Turkic incursions in the east. The weakening of central authority created a perfect storm for local leaders to challenge Byzantine dominance. Asen and Peter declared independence during a symbolic ceremony in Tarnovo, establishing it as the capital of the new Bulgarian state. Tarnovo would later be called Tsarevgrad, or the City of the Tsars, reflecting its newfound status as a political and cultural hub. The rebellion gained momentum rapidly, with the brothers rallying both Bulgarian and Vlach communities. They emphasised shared grievances and the promise of a restored Bulgarian Empire. This rhetoric resonated deeply with the population that had endured over a century of Byzantine rule. The movement was marked by both military campaigns and popular support, as villages and towns across the Balkans pledged allegiance to the new regime. However, maintaining this fragile independence required strong leadership and constant vigilance. The Byzantines launched repeated counter-offensives to regain control of their lost territories, but the Asen brothers proved to be skilled tacticians. Their ability to exploit the rugged Balkan terrain and rally local forces allowed them to fend off these invasions. Despite the initial success of the uprising, the new Bulgarian state faced both internal and external challenges that required careful management. Within the context of renewed independence, Kaloyan was born around 1170 and was the youngest of the Asen dynasty's 3 founding brothers. Kaloyan's early life remains somewhat shrouded in mystery, but it is known that he spent part of his youth in Constantinople, possibly as an emissary or even a hostage. This experience would have exposed him to Byzantine politics and culture, shaping his ambitions and his understanding of his enemies. The assassination of his brothers Asen in 1196 and Peter in 1197 thrust Kaloyan into a position of leadership. The sudden deaths of his brothers created a power vacuum and raised concerns about the stability of the fledgling empire. Kaloyan's ability to consolidate power and rally support speaks to his political acumen and charisma. He inherited a nation that was still solidifying its independence and facing threats from both Byzantine forces and internal dissent. Kaloyan's leadership marked a turning point for Bulgaria. He was not content with mere survival. He sought to restore the empire's former glory and expand its influence. His reign overall was characterised by a combination of military campaigns, diplomatic initiatives, and efforts to strengthen the state's internal structures. Under Kaloyan's rule, Bulgaria would emerge as a significant player in the complex and volatile politics of southeastern Europe. Kaloyan was a shrewd diplomat. One of the most striking aspects of his reign was his ability to navigate the complex political and religious landscape of the medieval Balkans. At the heart of this was his relationship with the Roman Catholic Church. A diplomatic manoeuvre to secure papal recognition in 1202 by reaching out to Pope Innocent III was a masterstroke of practical politics. Not only did this move counterbalance Byzantine influence, but it also elevated his status in the eyes of the wider Christian world. This alliance was not without controversy. Many modern historians note that his use of papal diplomacy was met with mixed reactions back home. Some factions within Bulgaria, and later historians, questioned the legitimacy of his papal title, suggesting that it clashed with an established Orthodox tradition in the country, and may have sowed seeds of internal dissent. This duality in perception highlights how Kaloyan's actions were both innovative and divisive in their political and cultural implications. To understand the significance of this move, we need to consider the religious and political context of the time. The Great Schism of 1054 had divided Christendom into Roman Catholic Church in the west and the Eastern Orthodox Church in the Byzantine East. Bulgaria, having been under Byzantine control for over a century, was traditionally Orthodox. However, Kaloyan saw an opportunity to leverage the rivalry between these two branches of Christianity to his advantage. Pope Innocent, one of the most influential and ambitious popes of the medieval period, was eager to expand Catholic influence in Eastern Europe. For the Pope, aligning with Bulgaria offered a chance to counterbalance Byzantine dominance and assert papal authority in the region. For Kaloyan, papal recognition would legitimize his rule, elevate his status, and strengthen Bulgaria's position in the volatile political landscape of the Balkans. The correspondence between Kaloyan and the Pope is a fascinating window into medieval diplomacy. Kaloyan addressed Innocent III with a mix of reverence and pragmatism, emphasizing Bulgaria's Christian heritage and its willingness to align with Rome. In response, the Pope expressed his support, recognizing Kaloyan as King of the Bulgarians and the Vlachs, and sending a crown and scepter as symbols of his authority. In 1204, Kaloyan was formally crowned by a papal legate, marking a significant moment in Bulgarian history. The alliance with the Pope was not without controversy. Within Bulgaria, there were factions that opposed the move, viewing it as a betrayal of Orthodox traditions. The Byzantines, too, were alarmed by this development, seeing it as a direct challenge to their influence in the Balkans. Despite these tensions, Kaloyan's decision to align with Rome was a masterstroke of realpolitik, otherwise known as practical politics, enabling him to consolidate his power and assert Bulgaria's independence. While the suggestion of widespread opposition within Bulgaria to Kaloyan's alignment with the Roman Catholic Church is plausible, it lacks direct evidence from contemporary sources. Orthodox resistance to Catholic influence was likely. It was not documented as significant internal crisis during Kaloyan's reign, however. The timing of Kaloyan's coronation was particularly significant. In 1204, the Fourth Crusade resulted in the sack of Constantinople and the establishment of the Latin Empire. This seismic event reshaped the political landscape of southeastern Europe, creating both opportunities and challenges for Bulgaria. Kaloyan, now recognised as a king by the Pope, was in a strong position to capitalise on the chaos. His diplomatic acumen allowed him to navigate these shifting dynamics, forging alliances and asserting Bulgaria's interests. The alliance with the Pope also had broader implications for Bulgaria's cultural and religious identity. While Kaloyan's eventual successors would eventually restore ties with the Eastern Orthodox Church, his reign highlights the fluidity and complexity of medieval politics and religion. It also showcases the importance of diplomacy in securing Bulgaria's place on the European stage. While Kaloyan had a reputation as a diplomat, he also had a well-earned reputation as a formidable military leader. His reign was marked by a series of decisive battles that not only secured Bulgaria's borders, but also expanded its influence. Kaloyan understood that military strength was key to ensuring the survival and prosperity of the Bulgarian state, especially in a region as turbulent as the Balkans. The most famous chapter of Kaloyan's military career was his conflict with the Latin Empire, established by the leaders of the Fourth Crusade after the sack of Constantinople in 1204. The creation of this new state posed a direct threat to Bulgaria, as the Latin rulers sought to assert their control over former Byzantine territories, including parts of the Balkans. Kaloyan saw the Latin Empire not only as a geopolitical rival, but also as an opportunity to demonstrate Bulgaria's military prowess. This conflict reached its climax at the Battle of Adrianople in 1205. The Latin forces, led by Emperor Baldwin I, were confident in their ability to subdue the Bulgarian army. However, Kaloyan's strategic acumen and understanding of the terrain gave him a crucial advantage. He used a combination of conventional forces and highly mobile cavalry, including Cuman allies, to outmaneuver and encircle the Latin troops. The result was a crushing defeat for the Latins, with Baldwin captured and later imprisoned in Tarnova. This victory sent shockwaves throughout Europe, as a newly established Western Crusader state had been decisively defeated by an Eastern ruler. Kaloyan's triumph at Adrianople had significant repercussions. It established Bulgaria as a major power in the region and demonstrated the vulnerability of the Latin Empire. The capture of Baldwin was a propaganda coup for Kaloyan, enhancing his reputation as a warrior king. The victory also solidified his position within Bulgaria, silencing internal dissent and rallying the population around his leadership. His military successes were not only limited to this conflict with the Latin Empire, however. He also conducted campaigns against other regional powers, including the Byzantine successor states of Epirus and Nicaea. His ability to adapt his strategies to different opponents and circumstances was testament to his skill as a commander. Kaloyan's use of diplomacy in conjunction with military force further highlighted his pragmatic approach to statecraft. Despite his achievements on the battlefield, Kaloyan's reign was not without challenges. Maintaining control over a diverse and often fractious population required constant vigilance. The integration of newly conquered territories into the Bulgarian state posed administrative and logistical challenges. Kaloyan's rule demanded a delicate balance of military might and political astuteness to manage both internal and external pressures. The Battle of Adrianople does stand as the zenith of Kaloyan's military career, but the events that followed illustrate the complexity of his reign. After capturing Baldwin, Kaloyan reportedly treated him as a valuable prisoner, but conflicting accounts suggest the emperor may have faced harsh conditions. This act, whether deliberate or incidental, cemented Kaloyan's reputation as a ruler who could not only defeat his enemies, but also command respect and fear throughout Europe. Chronicles of the time referred to him as Kaloyan the Romanslayer, a title that evoked awe among his subjects and dread among his adversaries. His use of Cuman allies during his campaigns highlights his ability to foster alliances beyond the borders of his empire. The Cumans, a nomadic Turkic people, were invaluable as mercenaries and raiders, providing Kaloyan with a mobile and formidable cavalry force. Their participation in battles, such as Adrianople, showcased Kaloyan's willingness to employ unconventional strategies to achieve his goals. While the Cumans benefited from the spoils of war, Kaloyan ensured that these alliances bolstered Bulgaria's military capacity without overextending his resources. The warrior Tsar also understood the importance of fortifications in securing his realm. He was invested in strengthening Bulgaria's defences, reinforcing key strongholds to protect against counterattacks from the Latins, Byzantines, and other rivals. Tarnovo, the capital, became a symbol of Bulgarian resilience, with its impressive fortifications and strategic location atop steep hills. The city served not only as a political and administrative centre, but also as a bastion of resistance against external threats. The Tsar's military campaigns also had a profound psychological impact on the region. His victories challenged the prevailing notion of Western superiority following the Crusades and proved that Eastern states could still wield significant power. For the Bulgarian people, his successes were a source of immense pride, fostering a renewed sense of national identity and cultural revival. Kaloyan's legacy in military and diplomatic achievements continues to shape Bulgarian national identity to this day. Not only is he remembered as the warrior Tsar who reclaimed Bulgarian independence, but his reign also set in motion a series of cultural and administrative changes that later generations would build upon. In modern Bulgaria, debates about his papal alliance and the internal policies have contributed to a nuanced national narrative, one that reflects both pride in his bold initiatives and an awareness of the complexities of his rule. This evolving interpretation highlights how Kaloyan's actions resonated well beyond his own time, influencing the resurgence of Bulgarian nationalism and the collective memory of a nation. In 1207, Thessaloniki, a vital city in the Balkans, and a former Byzantine stronghold, had fallen under the control of the Latin Empire after the Fourth Crusade. Its strategic position and symbolic importance made it a prime target for Kaloyan, who sought to extend Bulgarian dominance and further undermine the Latin Empire's foothold in the region. By this time, Kaloyan was already known as a relentless military strategist. His campaign against Thessaloniki was not merely a tactical maneuver, but a statement of Bulgaria's growing power and ambition. The siege was part of a broader effort to consolidate Bulgarian influence in the Balkans and demonstrate the fragility of the Latin Empire's territorial claims. Thessaloniki was well defended and of immense symbolic value, second only to Constantinople in the former Byzantine world. For Kaloyan, its capture would signify a monumental victory, cementing his reputation as a leader capable of reclaiming former Byzantine territories and placing them under Bulgarian control. Boniface of Montferrat, a seasoned crusader and ruler of the kingdom of Thessaloniki, was the Latin governor of the city. He was considered a formidable adversary. However, Kaloyan had proven time and time again his ability to outmaneuver more experienced foes. The siege began with Kaloyan employing a mix of direct assaults and psychological warfare. He used his forces, including his trusted Cuman cavalry, to harass the defenders and cut off supply lines to the city. His tactics were designed to wear down the defenders while instilling fear among the Latin inhabitants of Thessaloniki. The use of the Cumans, known for their ruthless and swift raiding tactics, added to the pressure on the besieged city. Despite Kaloyan's efforts, Thessaloniki's fortifications proved challenging. The city's strong defensive walls, combined with the determination of its defenders, prolonged the siege. Accounts from the time suggest that the defenders were bolstered by their belief in divine protection, a sentiment common in medieval sieges. For Kaloyan, time was of the essence. A prolonged siege risked leaving his forces vulnerable to counterattacks from other Latin forces in the region. As the siege dragged on, internal tensions began to emerge within Kaloyan's camp. The diverse composition of his army, which included Bulgarians, Vlachs and Cumans, created challenges in maintaining unity and discipline. It was during this period of uncertainty that Kaloyan's life came to a sudden and violent end. Kaloyan lost his life during the siege of Thessaloniki in 1207, while several accounts attribute his assassination to betrayal, either by a disaffected Cuman ally or due to internal conspiracies among his own Bulgarian nobles. The precise circumstances remain hotly debated. Some historians argue that the political intrigues within his court played a larger role than a single act of treachery, reflecting the volatile alliances of his time. The timing and manner of Kaloyan's assassination highlight the precarious nature of medieval power dynamics. As a ruler who relied heavily on alliances and military campaigns, Kaloyan was constantly at risk of betrayal from within his own ranks. His reliance on the Cumans, while strategically advantageous, may have also created friction, as these nomadic allies often prioritized their own interests over those of their patrons. Kaloyan's death marked a turning point for Bulgaria. His successors faced the daunting task of maintaining the momentum he had built and addressing the challenges of governance and defence. The siege of Thessaloniki ultimately ended without a decisive Bulgarian victory. Kaloyan's death led to the withdrawal of his forces. The Latin Empire retained control of the city, but Kaloyan's campaigns had left a lasting impact, exposing the vulnerability of the Crusader states and demonstrating Bulgaria's military power. Within Bulgaria, Kaloyan's assassination created a power vacuum that his successors struggled to fill. The fragile unity he had forged began to unravel, and the Bulgarian state faced renewed internal and external pressures. However, Kaloyan's legacy endured, and his reign represented a high point in Bulgaria's medieval history. His reign had a profound and lasting impact on Bulgaria, He strengthened the country's position as a regional power and expanded its territory to include significant parts of Macedonia and Thrace. His military victories and diplomatic successes laid the groundwork for the continued prosperity of the Second Bulgarian Empire. When compared to contemporary figures like Frederick Barbarossa, Richard the Lionheart, and Saladin, Kaloyan's legacy stands out for its unique geographical and cultural context. Unlike these more widely known leaders, Kaloyan operated in the often overlooked Balkans, a region that served as a crossroads of empires and cultures. This, perhaps, is one reason why his story remains relatively obscure in mainstream history. The overshadowing of Bulgarian history by the Byzantine and Ottoman empires has also contributed to his underappreciation. While Kaloyan is best remembered for his military campaigns and strategic diplomacy, several sources also point to his less heralded efforts at internal reform. Amidst the challenges of consolidating a newly independent state, Kaloyan undertook measures to stabilise his realm's administrative framework. These reforms, though not as dramatic as his battlefield victories, helped to strengthen central authority and streamline governance. These initiatives not only addressed the immediate needs of a fragile state, but also laid the groundwork for the prosperity enjoyed by Bulgaria in subsequent decades. Kaloyan is remembered in Bulgaria as a national hero. Monuments like the equestrian statue in Varna honour his contributions to the country's history. His name lives on in Bulgarian folklore and national identity, serving as a symbol of resilience and ambition. His story was deeply human. His victories inspired pride among the Bulgarian people, who saw in him a leader capable of restoring their nation's glory. At the same time, his pursuit of power came at a cost, both to his enemies and to his own subjects. The emotional toll of war, the uncertainty of political alliances, and the constant threat of betrayal created an atmosphere of tension and resilience. The broader historical context of Kaloyan's time adds another layer of complexity to his story. The Balkans, as a region, were a volatile mix of cultures, religions, and political interests. The impact of the Fourth Crusade on southeastern Europe cannot be overstated. It reshaped the balance of power and created opportunities for leaders like Kaloyan to rise. His story also offers lessons in leadership and ambition. His ability to balance diplomacy with military strength, to inspire loyalty while navigating internal dissent. It's a testament to his skill as a ruler. His untimely death and the instability that followed do, however, highlight the precarious nature of power and the costs of ambition. The Romanslayer may not be a household name, but his life and legacy offer valuable insight into a fascinating period of history. His rise to power in the wake of his brother's assassinations, to his victories against the Crusaders and his own mysterious death. Kaloyan's story is one of resilience, ambition, and complexity. Despite all of his achievements, he remains relatively unknown outside of Bulgaria. Much of the historical narrative of the Middle Ages is dominated by Western Europe, with figures like Richard the Lionheart and Saladin taking centre stage. The Crusades, while they deeply affected the Balkans, are often told from a Western perspective, leaving out the voices of local rulers like Kaloyan. As well as this, the chaotic and fragmented nature of southeastern Europe during the medieval period makes it harder for historians to construct coherent narratives about figures like Kaloyan. Unlike the centralised kingdoms of England or France, the Balkans were a patchwork of states, each with its own complex history. This has also contributed to Kaloyan's relative obscurity. His achievements remind us of the importance of revisiting those overlooked in history and acknowledging their contributions to shaping the world we live in today. Kaloyan was a leader who defied the odds, reclaiming Bulgaria's independence and elevating it to a prominent position on the European stage. His ability to navigate the turbulent politics of his time and emerge as a formidable force is remarkable. His reign set the stage for the continued growth and consolidation of the Second Bulgarian Empire. His successors, particularly Ivan II, would build on his achievements, ushering in a golden age for Bulgaria. Kaloyan's victories and diplomatic manoeuvres laid the groundwork for this success, ensuring that Bulgaria could withstand external pressures and thrive as a regional power. His story serves as a reminder of the complexity and richness of Balkan history, offering a counterpoint to the dominant narratives of medieval Europe. While his name may not be widely recognised, his impact on the history of southeastern Europe is undeniable. His legacy challenges us to look beyond the well-known figures of the Crusades in Western Europe, exploring the equally rich and complex histories of the Balkans and beyond. So, as we close this chapter, let's reflect on the significance of figures like Kaloyan, heroes of their nations, legends of their time, and reminders of the depth and diversity of our shared human past. Thank you for tuning in to Uncommon Folk. If you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with other history enthusiasts. I'll see you next time, where we'll be delving into Theophanes Sclerena, Empress of the Holy Roman Empire.